Why, hello, my dear players. It's a pleasure to have you here with me today, talking about D&D once again. And today I'd like to talk to you all about a few campaign ideas that I have run / currently running. Excuse me. And I thought I'd share them. Just go ahead and share. So, the first one we'll talk about is one I ran a long time ago that I want to rerun someday. Actually, I want to rerun all of these at some point, because I like all of them. First one is this idea of setting up that in the campaign world, that there was once this great magical academy of sorts. One that was so incredible and vast in the knowledge in which it could teach, that it had extensive cyclopedic knowledge on every single type of magic for every single type of caster. That is to say that it was not just a school for wizards. It was also a school that helped facilitated clerics, druids, warlocks, and sorcerers alike. The idea behind it was that it was a place where anyone of any magical type could come to learn more about their own magical abilities and how they truly functioned. It was a place of intellect, but also wisdom. A place of learning, but also a place of community, so that those who felt ostracized due to their magic could all come here to be together, not just to learn. And this academy chose to be purely neutral in its allegiances, only dedicating itself towards its students. However, what this led to is the other major nations, the major nations, no, follow my words, Will. The major nations decided that, well, an academy of this caliber, with so much magic power within it, is just too great of a risk to keep around. And thus, they decided to kill all of the residents and destroy everything that they had gathered. The logic of which was very simply, if they were not going to align with anyone, well then, they couldn't align with anything ever again. Now, this was not just a petty decision, it was also out of fear. If the Academy ever did decide to side with a particular country, then that country would very, very quickly gain an unfair amount of power, so to speak. And thus the decision was made, and the Academy fell. Countless of lives lost, all types of ancient knowledge built together, burned away. But the dean of the school, one who ran everything, the headmaster who took care of everybody, he was not going to let it die. Not completely. He could not save his academy, nor the people within. But he could save himself. He cast a forbidden ritual upon himself to essentially preserve himself magically in a state where he could not be destroyed nor killed in any manner, but he would be inert. And then, years and years and years later, as everything had died down and the academy long forgotten by history, the magical ritual wears off and the great mage rises again. Then, with what power he has left to years of dormancy, he does another forbidden ritual to raise 4 or or more depending on your party. 4 great heroes from history to help him rebuild his school and rebuild the knowledge and the community it once had. Now, these 4 great heroes could be from any place in history, but due to the nature of the spell, the only way they were not truly alive, it was not a true resurrection. They are being sort of actively maintained by the mage. And the mage cuts them a deal, saying that if they can help him truly rebuild everything, then once he is up at full power and he has everything he needs, he will cast true resurrection on them all, thus bringing them back to life to fulfill their goals and whatever else they may do, with the assistance of a rather grateful great mage and all of the resources he would have at that point. And the entire idea of this kind of setup, I think you could probably fit that vague concept into a lot of different settings, actually. That's why I kind of avoided too much specifics about the campaign I'd place it in. And yeah, I think you could have a lot of fun with it. Because I certainly did. It was a really neat way to kind of draw from a diverse set of players, a diverse set of characters, where every player played like this character like hundreds of years apart from each other, in which the ages that they existed in, and thus had these completely different concepts. So it's not just culture, but also like what's feasible and possible. Leads to a lot of fun stuff, a lot of really fun stuff. And I might run it one day again, because it was a really fun idea, and it was like it's more like a resource building game, as opposed to a typical adventure of sorts. Like, you're just like, alright, final goal of the campaign is to have the academy built back up. How do you do that? You're gonna have to find people to sign the fuck up. You're gonna have to find people to help build the school, physically. You're gonna have to find people, you're gonna have to find staff members. And yeah, it's just a whole process that includes a lot of adventure and intrigue and all kinds of stuff like that. I think it's a very flexible concept and really fun. Personal favorite. That's also my favorite. One of my favorite NPCs I've ever made is also from that. His name is Javin Refoyer. He was the great mage in that campaign, and he it was just a lot of fun as a person. So yeah. The next campaign idea is one where you kind of set up having a certain number of countries that each have some type of great military might in some sense. Like, they have reached what we might call like a superpower status. If you don't know, it's like a kind of a term to like refer to a country that could like fuck over easily. I was trying not to cuss. I just slipped out. Screw it. It's alright. But yeah, back on track. Is it basically just a country that has so much military, or in this case, magical might, that it could easily screw up any other country that isn't a superpower. So you could set up like 2 or 3 or more or whatever countries like that in the world, and then you propose like this terrorist group that's like bombing various places in these superpower countries. And the way they're doing the bombings, the way they're doing the attacks, make it look like the other country is doing it. The other countries are doing it. Thus creating a situation where you have multiple countries that want to kill. That's where you create a situation where you have these multiple countries that are like gearing up for a war, where you're having like like the prelude to a magical world war. And so, what is to be done about that? Well, you could set up some reason for adventurers to the way I did it, though I think you could fulfill this plot device in another way. The way I did it is that it had there be a secret society of people with connections across all the countries, and they noticed that the attack seemed a little weird, and they decided that they would recruit some adventurers that'd be willing to listen to them to investigate this, see if they can find out who's behind them, and try and defeat them. Thus creating this kind of plot where, trying to save the world from a world war. And this is something that's super dependent on how interesting this is. Like, super dependent on the world you build, how you get into it, but I think it gets into a lot of really fun shenanigans where you can have a lot of really fun both military and political intrigue, sort of, in this kind of magical setting like that. Leads to a lot of interesting situations. Just dealing with this potential large-scale conflict and having to fight at this group in the shadows they don't quite understand completely, and trying to gain an understanding. Which leads to a very interesting position, because this means that at any given point, as the adventurers are moving forward, they have to not only worry about trying to make sure that the bad guys are defeated, but also that the countries in question are calmed down. So it isn't just a thing of, we'll defeat the bad guys. It's we got to defeat the bad guys, and then or possibly even before, and then make sure the countries calm down enough that they don't kill each other. So, yeah. That's something I've played around with before. Fortunately, that campaign didn't really get to go very far because of scheduling. But feel free to use it yourself. As all of these, I say that you will if you want to use these ideas. Please do. I look forward to hearing what crazy stuff is done with these concepts. Let's see. What's next? Oh yeah. My nautical game, which is one I'm currently running and still fleshing out properly. Basically, the setup is that, you have a world which is in an age of sea travel and sea exploration, for one reason or another. World I'm using is kind of going under this thing of most land masses in the world, period, are more island-sized than they are continent-sized. And due to that, leads to a lot of sea travel just being important, just being incredibly important. And thus, like, pirates and a navy, all kinds of shenanigans like that, leads to a lot of fun scenarios. And I also just like making it very much like this faction-heavy game where there's lots of kind of these big factions with their own ideals playing around, and the party has to kind of sit in the middle and figure out what faction they want to help or not help. And what I've gone for the party, at least for this iteration of this, because I'm still working on this, I haven't perfected it really, is that since they told me that they wanted to operate in a much more neutral, they wanted to be a part of some type of faction, but they wanted to be in a very neutral position in the world. They didn't quite want to be pirates, they didn't quite want to be part of the Navy, and they wanted to just kind of have the freedom to do their own thing, but still have some ties to something. So I decided that we would do a mercenary fleet. where it's obviously fleet might be a bit of an exaggeration because it's not as many ships as a proper fleet, but the idea of it is just this group of people that are essentially privateers. They're free. They, you give them contracts, and then they'll send ships out to take care of those contracts. And those ships can take on contracts themselves, independent of being told to. They can just kind of take them in the name of their group without getting permission. Just following a handful of rules so that they aren't, being declared as pirates. And it makes it interesting. I'm still fully figuring out what I want to do with it. I've set up a whole interesting plot setup in the background with that, with someone predicting that they would end up on a certain island, and then on that island they find a package left for them. And in this package, just as I think it's a very interesting plot device to give characters, see what they do with them, is a set of otherworldly treaties. And what these otherworldly treaties do is that you can use them like a magic item, and when used, they can compel certain otherworldly beings, like fae, fiends, or celestials, into listening to you. And there's a lot of, potential plots to go with that. I'm not going to disclose all my ideas for that here, mostly because I'm not sure if one of my players will watch this video before any of those twists happen, so I'm not going to expose that. But there's a lot of fun possibilities. Lots of fun possibilities with that setup. That's something else. This isn't really a campaign thing, but just in general for campaign setups, if you don't know exactly what to do, make up a MacGuffin item, or just make up some item. If you don't know what that means, make up some item that clearly would have plot significance if there is a plot, and then just build a plot from there. A treaty that, a piece of paper that can compel a high-ranking devil to do what you want is a huge type of MacGuffin. That's a huge way to just elicits plot from it. It's very easy to see why that item would be wanted by characters, what things would go after that kind of thing. It's really easy to build a plot out of that. So even if you don't have one in mind, just building it just from that item's good. So if you ever want to build a campaign plot, like out of your butt, all you need to do is just make up an item that would have crazy, like a simple but like crazy effect that would make it useful for a plot, and then build a plot from that. It's like an item to compel a being of great importance. Sword, like a sword that can kill things that are immortal. That's another big one where you can just make up, a sword that can kill things that are immortal. Then I'll make up an immortal that my players would want to kill. Or, I'm trying to think of some other ones. Ooh, the physical version of like warlock contracts is another fun idea. Or like a warlocks have contracts, and those are more metaphysical. But if you could find like physical versions of those, that'd be amazing. That elicits a lot of potential plot, although that's a bit more probably character and or campaign specific. Like if you have some background setup that makes it important, like if you have a character that has like a lot of baggage with fiends, and you find a contract like that that's signed over to someone, it's a lot of potential plot just wrapped up in that. Oh yeah, bits literal physical pieces of super great monsters and things also elicit a lot of potential plot. Or like the weapons of legendary figures also wrap up in them a lot of potential plot. Like literally just like, I don't know, take the idea of Excalibur. You could literally build a whole plot around like an Excalibur-like item needing to be found by someone, and your characters could be the ones to direct them to it. That could be really fun. Oh, that reminds me. While I'm on this tangent, it's gone on for a few minutes. That's a fourth idea. That's a bonus one, a bonus round that I just made up. You could have, if your party would be game for it, you could have your party, instead of playing as the heroes of a story, play as the background characters of a story. And I think this especially works if you're playing in a canon that you all know already. Like if you're going to play in, I don't know, Dragon Age, the Dragon Age world, you can just have them play as a faction, play as part of a faction, or just as a random group of people acting in the background of one of the plots of one of the games. Like acting as like random soldiers of the Inquisition during the results of Dragon Age Inquisition. Stuff like that is really fun. Is potentially really fun. Has a lot of potential. But yeah, I've kept you all for too long now. Sorry for my rambling. And yeah, I'll talk to you all next time. If you have any of your own campaign ideas that are fun, leave them down below. Or if you have any thoughts about the campaign ideas I've laid out, well, also let me know. Look forward to seeing what y'all have to say. And well, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one.